So what is going on, guys? It's Triple G here, back on another Borderlands 3 video, and in today's video we are looking at Perma-Bear Moze build level 72. This build is absolutely phenomenal. It's the most chilled out build I've ever played in Borderlands 3. You just are never in any trouble. You have more than enough damage to deal with anything in the game, and the best part about it is you don't really need perfect gear. I'm going to show you in this video that with my imperfect gear, we are one-tapping enemies. We are destroying bosses. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to the channel or join us over on Twitch. We stream 5 times a week, and otherwise, let's get straight into this video. So as you can see from the footage here, we're going to be in Ironbear 100% of the time. We're going to be utilizing some of the new skills in Moze's purple tree, as well as complementing that with a couple of key pieces of gear, which will mean you'll be able to stay in Ironbear all the time, as well as do a ton of damage. As you can see from the footage here as well, we just chill. We could be on the crystals, we could be doing bossing. It's just really laid back. It's just nice to not have to throw grenades all the time being Moze, or hold the trigger down all the time. It is just a super chilled out build. So first of all, let's get into the skill tree. So let's start with the purple tree first. Now the purple tree is really important when actually keeping the Ironbear skills up. We're going to be taking a lot of skills here that will not only buff Ironbear damage, but will also increase that status effect chance, which will in turn allow us to have maximum fuel and maximum fuel returned. This is what will enable us to keep in Ironbear as long as possible. We're going all the way down here to superior firepower and to feature creep, but we are not taking the capstone. Then as we move on to the blue tree, because we are in Ironbear, we're only actually going down to Vampire. We're not going to be taking short fuse, and we're going to be taking auto bear. Now normally auto bear is just a little bit meh, but the amount of damage that we have with this Ironbear build means that when auto bear is active for 15 seconds, that will get you the majority of the way back to your action skill, meaning that you only have a very short amount of uptime. I will be honest with you, there are times if you do not have your Ironbear active that you will feel more vulnerable than you've ever felt with Moze. However, that is more than made up for it when you're actually in Ironbear. We're not going to be taking any augments from this tree whatsoever. Then as we move on to the pumpkin spice tree, we have security bear, which will give us that little added protection. 4 points into armored infantry and 5 points into drowning in brass, followed by a point into experimental munitions. The action skill you want to be talking here is the railgun. Capacitive armature is definitely the augment you want to be picking up here. It really does do a lot of damage around you as well, and it can do significant millions of damage to a single boss target if you stand close enough. You could take hell on rails as well for that extra little bit of incendiary damage if you're fighting, for example, Grave Ward. Then onto the green tree, we're going to be taking Cloud of Lead, the usual suspects here, Pointing Scrappy, Redistribution, Scorching RPMs. We are going to be taking Specialist Bear for that extra Ironbear damage, because we are going to be using dual railguns. So onto the gear, it is a mixture of weapons that you use when you're in and out of Ironbear. So I have a couple of weapons here that I'm going to use for when I'm out of Ironbear. The no pew pew is still very good. You could choose to re-roll this to whatever you want. I would actually make sure that you have a URAD weapon. So I have this OPQ system here with the critical anointment, which will give us railgun damage. So I make sure that this OPQ is in my hands when I go into Ironbear. But actually what you want as well is a secondary weapon, something like the reflux or a plasma coil or another OPQ that has URAD on it. So if you do find yourself in fight for your life, you have that extra damage while in fight for your life in order to get yourself back up. But to be honest with you, I don't think I've found myself in fight for your life in this build since I've done it. Then we have a plus ultra. This is where I tell you that you do not need god roll gear. All the footage you've seen in this build is all with this gear that I have right on me right now. If you have better rolls, all that's going to mean is more survivability, more health, and more damage. So this is the plus ultra. I'd probably recommend ASC Incendiary just for that beginning moment where you jump into Ironbear and then you get that little elemental mix. Then we're going to be using a flare here. Now I use the flare probably the majority of the time. But you could use a flame as well if you wanted to for mobbing. I just think the flare, just like that extra 100% damage most of the time, is really good. Then the artifact. Now there are some builds out there that use the electric banjo. Please feel free to use that if you want. I didn't want to just rip off somebody else's idea. So anything with shock, splash damage, AoE damage, you know, that kind of thing is going to be good here. You could even use the pearl if you wanted to. Just bearing in mind you're not really going to get much out of that from the passives. Then standard CMT, but you can use any grenade that you want really. You want something with multiple hits. You can throw this as well for a little bit of on grenade damage here. So I use this if I'm out of Iron Bear. I just throw a couple of grenades, which guarantees I have that extra damage, as well as I'm healing from the points in Vampire. So it doesn't matter what the content is in the game when you are doing this build. You will just crush anything. If you don't kill it in one shot, you will kill it in two. Everything will die from this. And as I said before, feel free to change the augment if you're coming up against incendiary enemies. Just bearing in mind there is a fuel cost for that, which is a little bit greater than using the shock actual railguns. But most things will just die from the shock railguns anyway. So it is really, really nice. Guys, if you've enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to the channel or join us on Twitch. We stream 5 times a week, and otherwise I'll catch you on the flip.